One of them that's coming through is, how do we partner with God for the rest of 2020, being that the year started off so crazy? What does that look like for the rest, as in that prophetic voice for the rest of the year? How do we partner with God?
I mean, that's a huge question. It's like world hunger, in a way. It feels pretty big. I think the only thing I have to input into this is I have a conviction that more prophets should quit trying to predict the future and just cause the future. Like moving from predictive prophecy to causative prophecy of how can we partner with heaven to create our future and not just try to predict what's going to happen. I feel like there's so many people that are living as if life is something that happens to us rather than a canvas that we get to paint with God on. And I'd like to see that shift in our prophetic community. So that's my piece.
Yeah, I think it's really a big deal. We get stuff like this happen, and we chuck all of our prophetic words we got for 2020. And we give up on what God already declared that we're supposed to anchor us through this season and keep us focused, not get distracted. Jesus said, we're going to the other side. And then the storm comes, and the disciples all get distracted. And I'm like, welcome to where we're at right now. Everyone just chucked their prophetic words, what God already declared to us about what 2020 and beyond, that this is a whole new epoch. This is a powerful season. This is a shift in history, and we should be anchoring ourselves and reminding everyone of what God already declared, right? Because that's supposed to propel us through.
Just on the back of that, I had a vision about 10 days ago, probably now. I was asking the Lord about 2020. We were hearing about it was time of 2020 vision, and we're hearing a lot about alignment. And I was asking the Lord, according to the words that He gave me about 2020, Lord, when I pictured what you said, I didn't picture this. Right. So can you help me know how to align myself with you so that what you're picturing, I'm picturing? Because I heard, but I didn't see. My interpretation was through the lens of a different lens. I think kind of my normal lens. And the Lord, He took me to His eyes. And He said to me, you thought the vision was about your eyes, but 2020 vision is about looking into my eyes. And He said to me, in this season of 2020 vision, people have stopped looking to my eyes, and they're now looking to my hands and my feet. They're looking to where I'm going and what I'm giving. But I never intended for the season to be about my feet or my hands. I intended it to be about my eyes. And as I gazed into His eyes, He took me into what felt like eternity. I went into His eyes, and I traveled into His eyes, and I felt destiny, I felt purpose, and I felt His heart for what is to come. And it was vast, and it felt fast. Momentum felt quick. And He said to me, He said 2020 is about locking gaze with my eyes. And He said the greatest vision you will ever get is by seeing into my eyes, not with your eyes. And I just felt like it went from my, what am I perceiving around me? And I feel like this is a little bit of a catch that we can get caught into a little bit, is that we look around and we determine what God is doing by what we see. But He's saying, don't determine what I'm doing by what you're seeing in the natural. Determine what I'm doing by looking into my eyes, because in my eyes is all vision, is all clarity, and is all destiny and all purpose. And so I really feel like that's really important for us in this season. We can look to social media, we can look to the news, we can look to the opinions of other people and to circumstance, but that is not going to communicate the vision that God has for this season. And we as prophets need to be looking into His eyes and declaring what we see in His eyes, not what we see happening around us.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So kind of a follow-up question with that. Some of the questions that are coming through is how to deal with prophecies that contradict each other. Obviously, we have a lot of prophets, social media prophets, I guess, Facebook prophets, that they're saying one thing, saying another thing, saying another thing. So we got 4 different, 100 different. How do we deal with prophetic words that seemingly contradict each other in that space?
Yeah, but another big question.
We have big questions on this.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Okay, so I know you guys are looking at me because I was telling a story in the dining room about how there was a season where I was making a major decision, and 5 different prophets, like big prophets, one of them was Chris, all told me something different. And I didn't even know there was more than 2 choices. I thought, this is right and this is wrong. Is it left or is it right? And then each prophet told me something entirely different than the other prophet. And I was really frustrated. And I went to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, 4 of these prophets are wrong and 1 of them is right. So first of all, which one's right?
That's the way he was leaning.
I'm here. And the rest are wrong. And what do I do with that? And what does that even do to my picture of prophecy? And one of the things that the Father kind of showed me in that time, he said, Daniel, I want you to quit thinking of your future as a straight line that's been written. I want you to see that the kingdom of God is more dimensional than linear. And each prophet is revealing a potential reality or outcome based upon what choice you make right now. And so it was like they were showing me different possible futures that I had the opportunity to choose. Now, I think there are times when prophecy is linear. I think when God is determined and sovereignly determined what's in his heart, that's different. But I think there are times in our life where we're faced with decisions where there are multiple outcomes, and God has many ways that he could get you to the future that he sees for you. So that's the tricky part about opposing prophecies, you know. I think the other side goes back to how we judge prophecy and how we process it as well. Like, who is this coming from? What's their theology? What's their camp? Do they have any motive in sharing what they're sharing? Those kind of things. And what heaven are they hearing from? All the things that we've kind of covered this week. And I think what happens is when a prophecy gets a lot of views online, we start judging the accuracy of the prophecy by the number of views. And I think that is not one of our judging methods. You know what I mean? Like, that's not one of the ways that we encourage people to judge prophecy, by how popular it is. So I think it'd be good to put a more biblical criteria into function there. You know, like, does it counter Scripture? Does it align with the character and nature of God? That would wipe out half the prophecies right there. Does it align with the character and nature of God? Okay, and then how does it resonate with me? Again, you know, judging the source. Did they have any motive in sharing this, or did they have any preconceived idea coming into this? How do loved ones and leaders? And then I think even when we're talking big picture about touching cities and nations, is, you know, what kind of fruit will me engaging with this prophecy bear? And honestly, if it makes me more hopeless and want to hide myself in the rocks somewhere, and, you know, then, you know, how does that align with may it be on earth as it is in heaven, you know? And so kind of keeping the big picture and the apostolic mandates that we have in mind when we're looking at the different prophecies and kind of screening them and judging them. That's, I don't know.
Yeah, I would maybe add, like, what is their level of accuracy in their history?
Yes.
Are they prophesying inside of their metron? We talked about
that's
metrons.
A big one.
Yeah, I mean, I see people right now, again, here we go. I'm going to just talk too much. I can feel it happening. But social media can make you feel like you're a 10 when you're actually a 2. And you can, the challenge is that God, when God promotes you, he protects you. And between the palace and between the promise and the palace is the process. And if you figure out some way to get around the process, you don't have the character to stay in the palace. The challenge is you can go from 0 to 10 on social media by getting a good marketing person and knowing a lot about marketing. And you got people that have 100,000 people following them on Instagram that actually are midgets, but they have a huge platform. That's not their metron, that's their performance. And we have people prophesying like like, national words, like, what Americans the whole country should do, when actually they've never actually, there's never been a process where their personal words in their own area have been checked and accurate. But now they have a platform, and because I think you said about likes, like you could, if I prophesy a certain thing, if I attach my name to Trump or to Biden on the internet, I will get hundreds of comments. Not because I'm famous, but because they are. Yep. Like, I know how to get people to follow me, but it's not legitimate. And so people prophesy, if you say, America, I had this vision and America's going down or America's going up or something's going to happen in November, you're going to be famous till November. After that, you're going to be looking for a cave to freaking run in. So, and really, I mean, you'll have hundreds, you'll have thousands of people because everyone's hungry for information. So, and my question is like, what's her metron? Like, are you an international prophet? Are you a national prophet? Like, or is your metron your own congregation? Or is your metron you and your family? And now you can go from you and your family. You couldn't do this 20 years ago. But now you can go from you and your family. Listen to the normal process. Like, right, 20 years ago, the way that you gained a national platform was that you got a reputation. A reputation is different than an image. And you got that because a man's gift will make room for him and bring him before kings and great men. So it's a little bit like, you're like Joseph, you're in prison, the cupbearer and the baker has a dream, you interpret that, it's accurate. He goes, hey, I know a guy, and you're, and I hate to say working your way up, but the Lord has got a process for you. And you're like, hey, I've prophesied these things, they came true, that's how I got the next promotion, and I eventually end up in the king's court because I have a reputation for being accurate. Hey, I killed the bear, I killed the lion, now I got an opportunity at Goliath. You don't have to do that anymore. You can not have ever killed a lion or a bear, it's a metaphor. Never prophesied to the cupbearer, and you're in the office of the king. And I'm like, you have, if you humble yourself, you'll be exalted, but if you exalt yourself, you get humbled. So, all these people have a platform until November passes, until January passes, till whatever date, and then they're all running for cover because people are like, and then they're making up reasons why it didn't happen. And I remember, we've been through so many of these together, right?
So many.
Y2K, like, someone from this platform, prophets, who I really appreciate, said, three of them, three prophets national prophets, said, Y2K will be worse than you think. But the Lord had already told us that it was the spirit of greed and the spirit of fear had partnership for the Y2K prophecy. And when it was over, we had that prophet back like 8 months later. He said, oh, people prayed it off. Well, that can happen, but if people are praying off all your words, you might want to rethink your words.
Is that called job security?
What's that?
Is that called job security?
Job security. Yeah, job security, you can, so I have a big word out there right now. I prophesied that President Trump would do 2 terms. If he doesn't do a second term, which is very likely right now, right? Like from his natural, I owe the world an apology because it wasn't a private word I gave to Dano. It was a word I gave to an entire bunch of people. And if that word doesn't come to pass, I am obligated to stand up and say, that was wrong. I made a mistake. If there's any messes I made, I'm glad to clean them up. I mean, we have to have accountability. And it's not fun when you have to do that. And I've never had to do that publicly, thankfully to this day. But there'll come a time when it happens. And when it does, we have to have the integrity to say, I was wrong about that. And by the way, you have the right to say, I don't know if I'm going to trust you your next big prophecy. And that's what happens when you miss it, is that there's the natural process of, oh, you got that one wrong, wonder how many more you're going to get wrong. And that is the normal process of community. And we all have that when you break trust. And if that happens to me, it could happen to anyone, then we have to be big enough to be an example of, I got that wrong, and that was a big word to get wrong. So,
So a good question with